You know that feeling when you're standing outside on a really clear, dark night, just looking up at the stars?
Oh, yeah. Sort of that classic stargazing moment.
Right. And for a lot of us, I mean, the default cultural reaction is just this overwhelming sense of being tiny.
Oh, absolutely.
You look at that massive, silent expanse of space,
Hmm.
and the immediate thought is usually some variation of like, wow, the universe is just this giant, indifferent machine, and I am absolutely microscopic.
Yeah, you just feel like a speck of dust.
Exactly. Like nothing I do actually matters in the grand scheme of things.
Well, we've been heavily conditioned to view the universe as
Void, yeah.
the dominant narrative for, gosh, the last few centuries, really, is that we're just this accidental biology spinning on a rock, and we're basically projecting our own desperate need for meaning onto a universe that just couldn't care less.
That existential chill, it's almost a given in modern thought.
Mhm.
I mean, we treat it as the ultimate mature truth of science.
Right, like you're naive if you think otherwise.
But what if we've got the fundamental nature of that void completely wrong? Welcome, learner, to today's deep dive. We are jumping into some incredibly profound excerpts from a fascinating piece of writing called The Primordial Mother, Mattering as the Ground of Being.
It's quite a title, isn't it?
It really is. And our mission today is to explore a truly mind-bending ontological concept. We are going to dismantle that existential chill.
And that's no small task.
Definitely not.
Oh,
But the central proposition here is, well, what if the universe isn't a cold, empty box at all? What if mattering, the actual state of having value, of caring, isn't just some psychological coping mechanism that humans invented to survive?
right. What if it's the literal physical fabric of existence?
Yeah. So whether you are a hardcore philosophy buff, maybe someone deeply spiritual, or just intensely curious about how humanity makes sense of reality, this deep dive is going to challenge how you view your own existence.
It really reframes everything.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have to start by looking at how we even talk about value in the first
Yeah,
place.
that's step one.
Because the excerpts we're analyzing, they argue that before theology or philosophy even had language, there was just this raw, undeniable fact that the universe is not indifferent.
And to understand how radical that is, we really need to look at the history of Western philosophy. I mean, for centuries, thinkers have tied themselves in knots debating the whole concept of value.
Oh, for sure. It's like the ultimate philosophical headache.
Exactly. They argue constantly, like, is value intrinsic to the universe, or is it just a mathematical output of complex brain chemistry?
Or is it purely subjective, like, I care about my dog, but the universe doesn't care about my dog?
Yes, exactly that. It's this endless intellectual tug of war.
And reading through these notes, I realized the author's pointing out that all of these arguments are circling something they can't quite name.
Hmm.
They're circling the felt sense that things simply do matter. Like when something suffers, that suffering actually registers somewhere in the fabric of reality. Or when something is beautiful, it lands.
Right. And the author introduces the primordial mother here, but not as a literal goddess figure, sitting on a cloud, keeping a ledger of who cares about what.
So no giant scoreboard in the sky.
No, no scoreboard. She is defined as the prior condition that makes the question of value feel urgent in the first place. It is not a being who cares. It's the caring itself.
Which is just, that blew my mind. The argument that the very act of asking, does anything matter, is actually proof of the mattering.
Yeah, it's a profound shift in perspective.
Because if nothing mattered, the question wouldn't even arise. It's kind of like fish trying to discover water,
Right.
right?
Oh, that's a great analogy.
We're arguing over where value comes from when it's the literal medium we're swimming in. It's like trying to use a flashlight to search a dark room for the concept of light.
Yes.
You keep pointing it at different objects, arguing over which object is generating the illumination, and you're completely ignoring the beam you're literally using to look at them. We're using value to search for value.
What's fascinating here is that humans didn't construct this concept from scratch. We remembered it.
Remembered it.
Yeah, because we were born from it. You actually see this echoed in traditions all over the world that recognize this foundational medium of care.
Like what kind of traditions?
Well, consider the Tao, for instance, that vast impersonal flow of the universe that somehow still has a tenderness and a direction to it. Or Shakti in Hindu philosophy, the pure consciousness force that animates everything.
Oh, well, right.
Or even the ancient Greek concept of the world soul. They're all attempting to describe pure, objectless love.
Objectless love, like love before love even had a specific object to point at.
Exactly.
But hold on, let me play devil's advocate here for a second. If mattering is just the default, inescapable state of the universe, why is there so much apathy in the world?
That is the big question.
Right, like why is there cruelty? Doesn't the existence of pure nihilism or destructive behavior completely disprove this whole premise? If the universe is fundamentally made of care, how do you explain all the bad stuff?
Well, this raises an important question, and it's one the philosophy actually anticipates.
Okay, I'm listening.
In this framework, apathy is not the absence of mattering. Apathy is a trauma response to mattering.
Wait, a trauma response.
Yeah. When a human being is overwhelmed by the sheer crushing weight of how much things matter, the pain, the stakes, the vulnerability, the nervous system literally shuts down.
Oh, wow.
So nihilism isn't this profound philosophical discovery of the universe's emptiness. It's a psychological defense mechanism against the universe's overwhelming intensity of care.
That completely flips the script. We shut down because we care too much, not because care doesn't exist.
Precisely.
Which honestly forces us to redefine how we think the universe was formed. We have to transition from what this force is to how it actually functions.
And that's where the text gets really specific.
Yeah, the excerpts draw a massive line in the sand between a creator goddess and a primordial mother.
Right. Because when we think of a creator, we usually imagine an artisan. Think of a sculptor.
Okay, sculpt.
The sculptor stands outside the clay. They have a design, they form it, they breathe life into it. But the sculptor and the sculpture remain two distinctly separate things. The creator has an outside.
But the primordial mother has no outside.
Exactly.
She doesn't stand apart from the universe to build it in a workshop. She is constitutive of the universe.
Yes, that's the word. Constitutive.
She's the principle by which anything becomes something rather than nothing, by which matter gains a pattern, and then that pattern becomes living, living becomes feeling, and feeling becomes knowing.
It's all an unbroken chain.
So just to make sure I'm totally clear on this, and for the listener too, she didn't paint the masterpiece. She is the canvas, the paint, and the actual chemical capacity for the paint to stick to the canvas.
That is exactly right. She isn't hiding behind the universe pulling strings, and she isn't buried beneath it.
Okay.
If you were to somehow remove her, you wouldn't just be peeling back a layer of reality to reveal some hidden gear system underneath. You'd be removing the whole thing. There would be nothing left.
The text actually uses the phrase prior in ontological order.
Yes, a very philosophical term.
Right, so let's ground that in conversational language. If reality was a video game, she isn't some hidden character you unlock, and she isn't even the code written by a developer. She is the literal electricity keeping the entire console running. You literally cannot zoom out any further.
That is the perfect way to understand ontological order. She is foundational in a way that cannot be excavated further. It's what you find when you go all the way down to the fundamental nature of being itself.
And because she is that ultimate foundation like the electricity of the universe, different ancient cultures throughout human history have designed different avatars to try and describe this exact same force.
They absolutely have.
I mean, I'm familiar with the later monotheistic ideas or, the Greek pantheon with the bearded guys throwing lightning bolts. But how did early human intuition handle this idea before we started putting everything into rigid human shapes?
It's highly revealing to look at the world's memory here. Because this force is the precondition for form itself, she can't really be fixed into just one image.
Makes sense.
So early humanity intuitively looked up and out to understand this. Take Namu from Sumerian mythology.
Namu. So what?
She is described as the primordial sea, a self-created being who existed before any other gods. She didn't forge heaven and earth like a blacksmith. She gave birth to them from her own oceanic body.
Wow. And then you look at Egypt and you find Nuit, the sky goddess.
Yes, Nuit is a great example.
And again, she's not a ruler sitting in the sky on a throne. Her curved body literally is the heavens. Her skin is the stars.
It's so visceral.
It really is. The mythology says she swallows the sun every evening and gives birth to it every morning. So death and birth are just her natural rhythms.
Notice the common denominator there, vastness.
Right. Oceans and skies.
It captures the idea that death and birth aren't tragedies or punishments handed down by a judge. They are just the metabolic rhythms happening within a cosmic body.
But humanity didn't stay comfortable with that vastness, did we? I mean, as civilizations grew more complex, they started craving control. There's this fascinating shift documented in these sources regarding the Babylonian tradition of Tiamat.
Oh, Tiamat.
Yeah.
Yes, she represents a crucial psychological turning point in human history.
How so?
Well, originally, she was the saltwater ocean mother, the vast, undifferentiated deep. The early myths note that she became the first gods. They were born out of her very substance.
Just like Namu.
Exactly. But as the Babylonian Empire grew, later traditions radically altered her story. They vilified her.
Turned her into the bad guy.
Yes, they turned the primordial mother into a multi-headed dragon monster, a symbol of chaotic nature that a male hero god named Marduk had to brutally slaughter to create the world from her corpse.
That is so dark. But the mechanism behind that myth shift is so telling, right? Like, why did they need to conquer her?
Why do you think?
Because a growing militaristic empire requires strict order, hierarchy, and borders. An undifferentiated ocean where everything is equal and connected. That is a massive threat to a rigid social structure. You have to turn the mother into a monster if you want to justify dominating the natural world.
That is spot on. And if Tiamat shows us how this vastness was eventually feared and subjugated, the Vedic tradition of Aditi shows us how it was beautifully intellectualized.
Oh, yeah.
The name Aditi translates to unbound. She represents infinite space, her body is the sky, and her womb contains all existence. She is literally called the mother of all that has been born and all that will be born.
Which is gorgeous. And that actually brings us to one of the most surprising examples in the source material, which is the Black Madonna in European Christian contexts.
That was a fascinating inclusion in the text.
Right. The author describes her as surfacing as something older and darker than the theology that was trying to frame her.
Like she was breaking through the boundaries.
Exactly. Institutional religion tried to put a neat theological frame around this raw, wild cosmic force, but the sheer gravity of it just bleeds through the edges. The image of the child she holds doesn't fully contain the immensity of what she actually represents to the people who revere her.
And when you lay them all out, Namu, Nuit, Tiamat, Aditi, the Black Madonna, they are distinct cultural fingerprints pointing toward the exact same underlying reality.
Yeah.
They don't point to a dictator dictating laws. They point to an all-encompassing environment of care.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because the deep dive doesn't just leave this as an abstract, historical, or philosophical exercise.
No, it makes it very personal.
It brings it right down to the nervous system.
Yeah.
Like, how does it actually feel in the human body to encounter this force?
Which is the practical application, really.
Yeah, because if you're listening to this on your commute right now, you might be thinking, okay, this is beautiful poetry, but how does this change my Tuesday?
Fair question.
Well, the author outlined some very specific, shared somatic qualities of this encounter. First, it says it feels like recognition.
Recognition, not discovery.
Right. It doesn't feel like meeting a stranger or learning a new fact. It feels like remembering something you always inherently knew.
And the physiological response is profound. The sources describe the body physically softening and the tight grip of your personal identity loosening.
Which sounds amazing, honestly.
It does. And why does the nervous system react this way? Because, neurologically speaking, the burden of ego preservation is just exhausting.
Oh man, tell me about it.
When you spend your whole life believing you exist in a dead, indifferent void, you feel entirely responsible for generating your own value and protecting your own borders.
You're constantly on defense, like 204/7.
Precisely. But when you encounter a framework where value is the baseline of reality, you remove the burden of having to generate your own worth from scratch.
That makes so much sense.
The fight-or-flight mechanism tied to ego preservation just shuts off. And accompanying that is a sense of immensity without threat. You are held by something so unimaginably larger than yourself that resisting it becomes meaningless, and all you can do is rest.
And within that rest, there's the feeling of being known completely. I love the distinction made here, too. Being known is not the same as being judged.
That's a huge distinction.
Right, because judgment requires a standard, like a set of rules to measure you against. But being known just requires presence.
Exactly.
She isn't some omniscient surveillance camera waiting to catch you messing up. She knows you because everything that has ever existed has passed through her. So nothing in you could possibly surprise her.
It's unconditional.
It's like standing in a completely empty, perfectly peaceful room where you finally truly don't have to perform for anyone. You can just exhale.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that deep exhale brings us to the final and perhaps most challenging somatic quality.
Which is?
A grief that is also love.
Oh, right. I have to admit, I'm just imagining trying to explain to my boss that I didn't finish my report because I am, quote, one with the literal ground of being and currently processing the cosmic grief of the universe.
Good luck with that.
Right. But seriously, the way this reframes suffering is intense.
It is intense because it demands we look at pain differently. If this force is the very principle of mattering, she knows the inherent cost of mattering.
Meaning loss.
Yes. When things matter, they can be lost. When beings are born, they are born into impermanence. The ache in her isn't pathology.
It's not a glitch.
No, it isn't a glitch in the matrix. It is the exact, precise measure of how much she cares.
Like changes everything about how we view tragedy. Universal grief isn't a flaw in the system. It's the undeniable proof that the system is built entirely on love.
It's a profound reorientation.
Which brings us to a massive paradox that we really need to untangle before we wrap up. Because if this force holds all of that grief and all of that immense mattering, what happens to our own individual sense of self when we realize that we are literally made of it?
The text really leans into this.
Yeah, the text tackles this bold statement, I am the mattering itself. So what does this all mean? Because usually, if you hear someone walking around saying, I am the universe, or I am the literal ground of being, it sounds like the height of narcissism.
It usually does, yeah.
How to integrate this cosmic realization without sounding utterly insufferable and egotistical?
Well, it avoids narcissism by completely obliterating the concept of hierarchy.
Okay, explain that.
Hubris, true egotism, is saying, I matter more than others. My value is higher than yours.
Right.
But claiming I am the mattering itself under this specific framework operates inversely. You are acknowledging I am an expression of the principle by which mattering occurs.
Oh, I see.
And the catch is, you cannot claim that principle for yourself without simultaneously forcefully claiming it for everyone and everything else.
Wow. You literally can't locate it inside yourself without acknowledging it is looking right back at you from everywhere else.
Exactly. The more fully you identify with this primordial mother consciousness, the less you can use it to feel superior. Because she is the one space where there is absolutely zero hierarchy of worthiness.
That's beautiful.
Think about what it actually means to look at the world this way. The stone on the ground, the burning star, the deeply beloved child, and the person completely forgotten or discarded by society.
They're all the same.
They are all held with the exact same ontological gravity. They are all made of the exact same care.
So to know yourself as her means knowing you are the ground under your own feet. It's not inflating your ego at all. It's profoundly humbling.
Deeply humbling.
It's realizing the force that has been sustaining you this whole time is the mother you were looking for everywhere else, who was actually never anywhere but right here.
Which leads directly to the culmination of these sources, the concept of the return.
The return.
Yes. All the ancient traditions we discussed agree on one central mechanism. Whatever is born from her eventually returns to her.
Right, the cycle.
But it is vital to understand that this return is not a punishment. It is not a loss of self into a cold, empty nothingness. It is a homecoming.
The souls come back. The stars burn out, and their matter drifts and gathers to form new stars. The ideas and borders that defined whole cultures dissolve and eventually reemerge in completely new forms.
Everything recycles.
She is the entirety of the cycle. Everything that arises, arises from her, and everything that falls, falls right back into her.
This means there's fundamentally nothing to fear in the falling. Even the endings are her.
Yeah.
The most poignant argument in this entire philosophy is that even the moments that feel like pure, devastating loss are held safely. That loss is part of the mattering.
The fact that loss leaves a shape in things. The fact that the absence of what was loved creates such a profound physical ache in the human chest. That is the ultimate proof that what was loved actually mattered.
It wasn't just a trick of the mind.
Exactly. She is present especially in the grief.
It's pointing at the truth that the fabric of existence is deeply, tenderly invested in what happens within it. The universe is not an empty container. You are not separate from it, and you never were.
It is an incredibly beautiful, radically different way to look at reality. And learner, as we wrap up this deep dive, I really want to leave you with a final lingering thought to mull over, building on everything we've just explored.
It's a big one.
We talk about how encountering this primordial mother is described as a remembering, like reconnecting with the truth that mattering is the ground of being. So what if our modern epidemic of anxiety, of feeling so incredibly alienated, stressed, and small in an indifferent universe?
What if?
What if that is just a profound cultural amnesia? Think back to that feeling of looking up at the night sky we talked about at the very beginning. Instead of feeling like a microscopic accident in a dead void, what if you walked out your door today and genuinely believed, deep in your neurology, that your very existence is the universe's way of caring?
That shifts everything.
How would that realization change the way you interact with the very next person you see?
It changes the entire foundation of how we live.
It really does. Well, keep questioning, keep exploring, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.